Picture a modern baby's first meal. It's a little jar, bright label, organic sweet potato, maybe mashed banana, spooned out by a nervous parent filming the whole thing for grandma. There's a doctor's chart taped to the fridge. There's a schedule. There's an entire multi-billion-dollar industry built around that one tiny spoonful. Now wind the clock back, way back. No jars, no labels, no pediatrician, no refrigerator, just a mother, a baby, and a world that could take that baby away in a single bad season. So what did that baby eat first? What actually went into that little mouth 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 years ago? And here's the thing that surprises people. The answer isn't just breast milk, obviously. The real story is way weirder, way older, and honestly, way more human than you'd expect. Let's go through it properly. Start with the one fact that hasn't budged in 300,000 years: breast milk. For basically all of human history, a baby's very first food was its mother's milk, not because of a wellness trend, not because a chart told anyone to, because there was nothing else. No formula, no cow's milk in a fridge, no backup plan. If the mother couldn't nurse, and no one else could either, the baby usually didn't make it. That's the brutal math of the ancient world. And breast milk is incredible, by the way. It's not just food, it's medicine. It carries the mother's antibodies straight into the baby, protecting it from infections in a world absolutely swimming with them. In a time before doctors, before antibiotics, before clean water, that milk was the single best shield a human being would ever get. So that's the starting line. Every ancient baby, everywhere, began the same way. But here's where it gets interesting, because the real question isn't what came first, it's what came next. What was that first solid food? That first bite that wasn't milk? Scientists have a word for this moment: weaning. It's the slow shift from pure milk to actual food. And it turns out this is one of the most dangerous chapters in an ancient child's whole life. Think about it. A baby on breast milk is protected, shielded, but the second you start feeding that baby something else, you're introducing a whole new world of risk. Dirty water, spoiled food, germs. And here's the wild part. Scientists can actually see this happening in ancient bones. Yeah, bones. There's this technique called stable isotope analysis, and it's basically a chemical fingerprint locked inside teeth and bone. By reading it, researchers can tell when a child stopped drinking only breast milk and started eating other stuff. It's like a nutritional diary written into the skeleton itself. And what does it tell us? Across a huge range of ancient societies, weaning usually started somewhere around 6 months and often wrapped up by 2 or 3 years old. Now compare that to today. Modern guidelines, also right around 6 months. Isn't that something? Across thousands of years, across totally different worlds, that instinct barely moved. Our ancient ancestors landed on almost the same timing we use now, not from a manual, from experience, from watching and losing and learning. Okay, so what actually was that first bite? What did they mash up and hand to a hungry little one? Simple answer: whatever they had, and whatever a toothless baby could actually swallow. For hunter-gatherers, that meant soft, mashed-up versions of the world around them, chewed-up fruits, softened plant roots, bone marrow, scooped out and mushy, maybe a bit of pre-chewed meat. And here's a detail that might make you squirm a little. In many cultures, moms and grandmas would literally chew the food first, soften it in their own mouths, and then give it to the baby. It's called pre-mastication. Sounds gross to us, right? But it was genius. It broke the food down for a baby with no teeth, and it may have even passed helpful gut bacteria along too. That's not primitive. That's clever. And then farming showed up, and everything about baby food changed. Here's a huge turning point. When humans stopped chasing food and started growing it, a brand new baby menu appeared almost overnight. Think about what farming gave people: grains, wheat, barley. And you can do something magical with grains. You can boil them soft. You can mash them into a mush. You can make porridge. And porridge? Porridge is a perfect baby food. Soft, warm, easy to swallow, easy to make in bulk. For thousands of years, some version of grainy mush was probably the first solid food for countless babies across the farming world. But farming gave them something else too, something that changed the whole game: animals. Once humans domesticated cows, sheep, and goats, they suddenly had a new liquid on the menu: animal milk. And here's the fascinating part. Animal milk only became available to feed babies once humans settled down and started keeping herds. Before farming, that option literally did not exist. After farming, a whole new door opened. And scientists have found the proof, actual proof, in the ground. This is my favorite part, because it's the moment history stops being a guess and becomes real. Archaeologists in Europe dug up these tiny little clay pots, small enough to fit in a baby's hands, with a little spout to suck from. And get this, some of these things are shaped like cute little animals with feet and heads. Little clay creatures, made, maybe, by a parent who wanted to make their kids smile, thousands of years ago. For a long time, nobody was totally sure what they were for. Maybe the sick, maybe the elderly, but then they started turning up in something heartbreaking and undeniable: the graves of babies. And when scientists analyzed the residue crusted inside those little pots, they found it: milk, animal milk, from cows, sheep, or goats. Think about what that means. These are, as far as we know, some of the earliest baby bottles on Earth. The oldest examples of these feeding vessels date back more than 7,000 years. 7,000 years ago, a parent was holding a tiny animal-shaped cup, filling it with milk and feeding their baby, just like we do now. That's not ancient history. That's a Tuesday morning. That's a scene you'd recognize instantly. But hold on, I don't want to make this too cozy, because there was a serious, deadly downside to all of this. Remember how I said weaning was dangerous? Here's exactly why. Those adorable clay bottles, they were almost impossible to keep clean. These vessels were likely never sterilized, which made them a potential source of dangerous germs for very young infants. Picture it: a porous clay cup, full of milk, sitting out in a warm home. No soap, no hot water, no idea that germs even existed. That milk would go bad fast. Bacteria would move in, and a baby drinking from that could get sick, really sick. So this new food, this exciting farming era upgrade, came with a hidden cost. More options, but more danger. And that trade-off shows up in the bones too. Bringing in other foods too early, especially without enough animal protein, could actually lower a child's chances of surviving to adulthood. That's the tightrope every ancient parent walked. Feed the baby and risk the food. Don't feed the baby and risk starvation. There was no perfect answer, just impossible choices made with love in the dark. So how did anyone survive this? Here's the part I really want you to hear. An ancient mom was almost never alone with this problem. Never. She was surrounded. Grandmothers, aunts, older sisters, a whole circle of women who'd done this before, who knew the tricks, who knew which foods worked and which ones killed. That knowledge, when to start solids, what to mash, how to chew it, how to spot a sick baby, wasn't in a book. It lived in people. It got passed down, mouth to ear, hand to hand, generation to generation. Grandma wasn't just visiting. Grandma was the instruction manual. Grandma was the safety net. And honestly, that's something a lot of modern parents have lost. That built-in circle, that living library of, hey, try this. Back then, feeding a baby wasn't one anxious person and a smartphone. It was a whole community, leaning in together. So let's zoom back out. What was a baby's first food in ancient times? First, always, breast milk, the one constant across the entire human story. Then, when it was time, whatever the world offered. Mashed fruit and marrow for the hunters. Warm, grainy porridge for the farmers. And after we tamed animals, milk from cows and goats and sheep, poured into tiny clay bottles shaped like little animals, 7,000 years ago. And through all of it, a truth that hasn't changed one bit. Feeding a baby has always been an act of hope, a gamble, a risk, and a whole lot of love. The food changed, the tools changed, the dangers changed. But that moment, a parent leaning in, offering that very first bite, watching, praying it goes well, that's ancient. That's timeless. That's the most human thing there is. The jar on your counter and the clay pot in that ancient grave, they're the same story. Same fear, same hope, same love, just 7,000 years apart. So next time you see a baby take that first messy, giggly bite, remember, you're watching something older than cities, older than writing, older than almost everything. You're watching humanity do the one thing it's always done best. Take care of the next one in line.